One way you may actually experience anorexia around the holidays is by allowing yourself to eat what you want on whatever holiday you celebrate. There is a certain behavior within an anorexia where you are been looking forward to whatever holiday you celebrate, whatever party you're going to, whatever it is, because that's the day you're actually going to allow yourself to eat all the food you want, all the kinds of foods that you want. And this is not something that you do normally throughout the year when you are very hyper-focused on the rules, expectations, and standards of anorexia. What I mean is that everybody has a different way that they engage in anorexia. There's lots of crossover. There's lots of similarities between people that experience anorexia. However, the way you do it is going to be different than everybody else. You're going to create the rules that are most important for you. You're going to create the standards and expectations for yourself, and then you're going to respond accordingly. And usually this is with very rigid planning of the foods you're going to eat, the times you're going to eat them, the amount you're going to eat, and then deciding, like I said, with the foods you're going to eat, usually what food you consider to be safe, what food you consider to not be safe, foods that you eat, foods that you don't eat. There can also be movement, exercise, training regimen that goes along with it. Particularly for the folks that I work with who are competitive distance runners, this goes along with it, which is there is a training schedule, and it also follows the same type of rigidity that the eating schedule follows, which is that you are going to set up the type of training, exercise, and movement you're going to do, how much you're going to do it, when you're going to do it. And you stick to it very consistently. There is not a lot that will get in the way of interrupting you from carrying out your schedule, carrying out your plan. And because it is so rigid and because it is so mandatory for you in your mind, when something interrupts that, it makes you have very strong feelings of anger, resentment, depression. So how people respond around major holidays is you get very, very rigid, and maybe you even go extra rigid than you normally do the whole year when you have anorexia, and you double down and maybe you restrict more foods, maybe you up more movement, and then you're doing that with the expectation and the thought that you're going to allow yourself to have everything you want, the foods that you want, and the amount that you want on these certain holidays. Not everybody does this. I'm speaking directly to people that do have this experience. This actually mirrors the highs and the lows of anorexia as they play out. When you have anorexia, there is a belief system that if I just follow this plan, if I just meet these numbers, because numbers play into this as well, if I just eat these foods and don't eat these foods for this amount of time, then everything is going to be okay. If I just meet these conditions, everything is going to be okay. So that's just like the normal throughout the year. Then when it comes to holidays, you may even like I said, double down on that and make it even stricter to allow for yourself to have what you want on the holiday. So again, it's conditional. In order to have what you want on the holiday, you have to follow the double down regimen of anorexia and overtraining that you have deemed qualifies you to then be able to eat what you want and as much as you want on the holiday that you're celebrating. Now, that's the condition, that's the high. It's like, also, something that happens around the holidays is giving you something to look forward to. So you're doing this drudgery because it is very hard to maintain. As driven as you are to do it, it doesn't mean that it's easy to do. It takes all of your energy, it takes all of your focus. Your mind is constantly thinking about food. You are becoming more and more isolated from people around you. You're very rigid and you don't have much flexibility. So you can't do things that maybe you would like to be able to do, or you struggle when you get interrupted, as I was just describing earlier. Before the holiday, this is going into double time. It's such drudgery But the reason that you're able to even get through this even more drudgery than usual is because there is something that you're looking forward to, which is you're going to allow yourself to have what you want to eat on a holiday. And that gives you some sort of motivation. Also, as you're doing it, one, there's the high that you get just from the behaviors themselves. And then if you're like doubling down and you're completing these behaviors, it gives you a sense of high. Now this, again, it's an illusion because with highs, there's lows, but it does feel like that in the moment. You feel very high, you feel very good, you feel very in control, you feel on top of the world, you feel like nothing can stop you, and you know like in the future, you're gonna be able to have this big payoff. So the issue with that, as you can see, one is just the regular behaviors itself and the harm that causes to the body. And all the other, I'm not gonna talk about all the ways that this causes harm because there's so many ways and that would be other videos, but I really just wanna specifically talk about this behavior. When you have the holiday and you're like enjoying the food, and whether you are at a place where you can allow yourself to enjoy it or not, I don't know, but usually these folks who do this behavior leading up to it, you are actually able to enjoy the food on that day. But then inevitably, like Cinderella, that clock strikes midnight and you go into the down. Because after it's over, it's like hopelessness. There's nothing to look forward to anymore. Who knows when the next holiday will be? You may be experiencing guilt after allowing yourself to eat what you wanted to eat, even after you went through like this whole double down, extensive, rigid, restrictive regimen beforehand. It doesn't necessarily save you from not feeling the guilt, the self-criticism, and the blame after the holiday. So there's that. You may still have those feelings. And then there's also this sense of hopelessness because, and maybe depression because you don't even know when you're going to be able to have that relief again. It's just like looking off into the distance in the total flatlands where you can't see the ending. It just goes and goes and goes forever. That's the other side of this build-up regiment for the holidays, and then the low. So the high, the build up to the high, cresting the hill, and then the low. And because anorexia is a way that people deal with difficult feelings like anxiety, fear, anger, shame, loneliness, when these feelings start to come back up, you don't really know another way to deal with them. And so then you go back into your behaviors and the cycle just continues and continues and continues. And that's why it's so challenging to get out of. So in one way, like it's great that you're allowing yourself to have what you want on the holidays. However, it really isn't that because of all the restriction that's done beforehand and done afterwards, and because it just keeps it going and going and going. And the thing is, as you keep going along and going along, you know what is coming. You know that the low is coming because you've experienced it multiple times. And that actually makes it even more hopeless, that feeling of hopelessness, of like feeling stuck, like there's no way out of it, because you know that the low is coming. And it just seems like, is this my life? Is this just going to keep going and going and going like this? I'm not going to give you a solution because I know that comes with deep work. But what I want to offer is if this is you and this is what you're doing this holiday season and you are gearing up, I'm literally doing this like running, and gearing up with planning your food, your training schedule, and you're doubling down, then you're going to allow yourself to have what you want on the holidays. What I want to offer as a first step is just to be present. This is what I offer, what we do in peer counseling, just to start to notice, what is that like? Pay attention to your experience. Pay attention to what it feels like on the inside. Pay attention to the feelings, even like if you're feeling really excited and hopeful because you know you're gonna allow yourself to eat what you wanna eat at your holiday gathering. Pay attention to that too. And it's gonna be harder when it starts to go down on the other side because those feelings that aren't as joyful, like I said, shame, guilt, disgust, depression, those are harder to feel And so it may be very hard to pay attention to be present when you're feeling those feelings. But if you start to practice this, what you're doing is you're already creating a practice that goes against anorexia. Because anorexia, again, is a way to deal with that deep pain that has never been given a voice. The deep pain that you've carried in your body for a long time now, that has never been given a release, that has never been given a voice, that has never gotten the attention and care that it needs. So any inkling of like depression or hopelessness or loneliness, you're like, oh, can't feel that. Go into rigid training and restricting my food. So it's gonna be hard to be present on the down. When you can practice this, you are starting to chip away at anorexia because it's the opposite of what anorexia serves. Anorexia is serving to keep you safe. It's a way of providing safety. It's a way of making you feel like you have control. It's a way of creating predictability when there seems like there is none. When you allow yourself to be in the unpredictable, the unknown, as in the down, the low, when you're starting to notice like you're feeling those feelings again, you're actually going against the fundamental way that anorexia works, because you are staying present with yourself while you're experiencing this. The thing to consider is that anorexia and this like holiday high and low, plus the regular highs and lows in anorexia, is that there may be another way. It seems like in the moment, anorexia is the only way. Controlling your food and controlling your body is the only way. And this gets mixed up with all or none thinking. What I want to offer is that there could be a situation where you allow yourself to eat whatever you want, whenever you want it, all year around. And so there is no buildup on holidays. And that actually may bring a feeling of depression when I mention that. Because for me, that used to be like a very depressing thought, because then it'd be like, well, what is there to look forward to? So that also is challenging when doing work of letting go of anorexia recovery work, of anorexia liberation work. That is also challenging, which is, well, like, if I'm not restricting my food, one, I'm not going to be worthy. I'm going to have nothing to show the world of my worthiness. And two, like, what am I going to look forward to? Because the thing with anorexia is, because you are hungry, because you're not eating enough, you're always looking forward to food. That's why there's such that high going up. When you're restricting your food and like you followed your schedule to the T and you followed your training routine to the T, one, that gives you a high because you feel like you're in control and on top of things, but two, you're also hungry. So you like look forward to food. But what if you're satisfied? Then you're taking that something to look forward to, the food, away. See, my eyes get big because it's like, well, then what happens? Well, then you're open to the normal ups and downs of life, the normal emotions that will come and go in your body. And if you have not been practiced at experiencing those emotions and allowing them to be there and tending to them, discussing them, being present with them, the thought of letting go of the highs and lows of anorexia is terrifying. So that's why this like build up for the holidays and then the lows, as joyous as the highs are and as painful as the lows are, and then the dread of having to continue it after the holidays, that is actually keeping you from being with the emotions, the feelings, the sensations in your body that have felt like they're unsafe to feel. This season, if you relate to this, I see you. I used to do this. It was like so joyous each year. I looked forward to it so much. And then inevitably I would feel so depressed afterwards. And then I just kept going. I didn't know another way. I didn't even know there were emotions in my body. I couldn't comprehend that there was any other way to live. So if this is you, I see you. And I'm not going to convince you to do otherwise. The only thing I want to offer is to pay attention to your experience and what it's like. I know that there's another way because I now live it, and I would never want to go back. However, I understand what it's like in the moment, and it seems like there really isn't any other way. So if you have questions about this, drop them in the comments. If you're in Washington State and you want to do some peer counseling work with me one-on-one, go to my website, compassionatepeercounseling.com, schedule a free consult with me, 30-minute free consult. The other trade-off is when you are engaging in restrictive eating, all the food rules, and over-exercising, you are blocking your radiant light from shining. And when you go to peer counseling, I'm not gonna make you stop. I'm not gonna force you to let go of the eating disorder when you're not ready, because eating disorders go when they're ready. I am going to be knowing that you have that light within you. And what I'm going to be doing is guiding you to it. If you're engaging in this behavior, I see you. You can't just stop because somebody tells you to. What you can do is pay attention and notice all the steps of it and be present with it. And if you need to talk to somebody about it, please reach out to me if you're in Washington State, because it can be helpful just to be able to talk to someone so you don't have to be alone with it. One, it's good to be able to tell somebody about the highs because it feels good to share. And two, it's really helpful to be able to talk to somebody when you're in that low, in that depression, to get the support. The best to you. Happy solstice, happy holidays, take good care. What is my conclusion? Okay, my conclusion is